بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول النبي الكريم. So we begin our new class, which is on the fiqh of life, but specifically we'll be starting with the fiqh of Ramadan. The reason being is obviously Ramadan is just a month away, and we would love to learn more about the masail related to Ramadan, specifically fasting and so on, well before Ramadan starts, so that we can hopefully, inshallah, have a more fruitful and beneficial Ramadan. The unfortunate reality is that many people, they make different types of mistakes when it comes to fasting, when it comes to Ramadan, and oftentimes what happens is that these mistakes, they carry on throughout their life. And so it's possible many years go by and people, they have many fasts which are not done properly because they didn't know how to do the fast of Ramadan, right? And of course, the fasting of Ramadan is a fard, right? And so therefore, we should understand and ensure that we learn our fara'id properly. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says, "Talabul ilmi farida ala kulli Muslim." He says that acquiring the basic fundamental knowledge of Islam is fard on every single Muslim. Every single Muslim must acquire that amount of knowledge by which they can live their daily lives according to Islam, right? So a couple of things. First, inshallah, just to introduce the book. But before that, there's plenty of space here, brothers, and you can move forward, inshallah. There's plenty of space. If you like, you can sit comfortably, and that way you can see me, inshallah, and I can see you as well. If you have any questions, you can. Okay, the way to answer the questions will be that those who are here, inshallah, anytime during the lesson, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Anytime during the class, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, inshallah, and I will answer your question as soon as I can, inshallah. If you're online, inshallah, you can text on the group, inshallah, and I will respond to your question there. And if you are, if you like, if any woman is here or if anyone else wants, they can text me on my number, inshallah, and I will respond to the questions also on my phone as well. So these are the different ways that you can ask questions, and I will hopefully attend to your questions, inshallah. Now, the book that we'll be covering is Imam Abu al-Hasan Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Baghdadi al-Quduri, his book, his Mukhtasar, right? It's called Mukhtasar al-Quduri, right? This book, Mukhtasar al-Quduri means the summarized book of al-Quduri. And if you look at the book, it's not a small little summary, right? It doesn't look small. But the reality is that it is small in comparison to the other much larger books of fiqh. Right? So this is technically a mukhtasar. But the beauty of this book, it's known as one of the mutun al-mu'tabara, meaning it's one of the trusted, reliable sources of fiqh. There are a few very reliable, concise books of fiqh which can be relied upon for a number of reasons. And so generally, this book, we can rely on this and we can refer to it for many of our masail. And so that's why I chose this book specifically. And this book actually is a very beloved book. I really enjoy it because it's concise, but at the same time, it doesn't leave out detail, right? It's concise, but it doesn't leave out anything where, you have to go to other books. Of course, if you go to other books, you'll have many more additional masail, but the basic fundamental knowledge that you require, you can find it in this book. Now, this book is, of course, in Arabic. There are English translations. They're not as good, of course, as the Arabic, and so therefore, I'll be reading from the Arabic. At the same time, I'll be translating and inshallah, providing commentary if needed, inshallah. So today's lesson might be a bit challenging just because he's covering some of more intricate topics, but inshallah, hopefully we will understand it. So he begins, Kitab al-Sawm. This is the chapter of Sawm. And inshallah, this class will not be too long, but inshallah, it will hopefully, about 20 minutes, inshallah, we'll wrap up everything. So Kitab al-Sawm, he says that this is the chapter of Sawm, as-Sawmu darban, wajib wa nafil. He says that there are two types of fasts. One is the fard, the obligatory fasts, and the second is the nafil, the optional fasts. So he's categorizing them. So fal wajibu darban. Now, in your mind, you can make two mental notes, right? that they are. One second. Okay, so in your mind, you can make two categories, right? So you have the fard fasts and you have the nafil fasts. Within the fard, you have two categories, right? منه ما يتعلق بزمان بعينه كصوم رمضان والنذر المعين فيجوز صومه بنية من الليل, right? So then he said that there are certain fasts which are specific to a time, right? They're specific to a time limit. You have to do them at a specific time. For example, the fast of Ramadan, you have to do them at a specific time, which is the blessed month of Ramadan. Another example is those fasts which a person swears upon. He says, I swear, if someone says, I swear I'll fast next Monday, for example, someone says, I swear I'll fast next Monday, then he must fast next Monday. Does that make sense? So the fast of Ramadan and the fast which a person makes necessary on himself. In regards to these fasts, what's the ruling of this? You can make the intention from night. At nighttime, you can make the intention, but at the same time, the intention also can exceed to the morning. So he says, فَإِنْ لَمْ يَنْوِي حَتَّى أَصْبَحَ أَجْزَأَتُ النِّيَّةِ مَا بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الزَّوَالِ. He says that if you don't make intention at night, you can make the intention up till midday. He says until zawal. This is one view. One view, so the fast of Ramadan, which is coming up, you can technically make intention well beyond Fajr time. Right? So you have to make an intention for Fajr, for fasting. And so you can make it well beyond Fajr time. Now, what time can you make it up till? There's a difference of opinion. So according to Imam Quduri, he says that you can make it up till Zawal, which is all the way just before Dhuhr. Yes? That's one view. The other view is that you can make it up till midday. So what you do is you calculate. You take from Subh Sadiq, which is from the morning time, from the time of entering Fajr and the time of Maghrib. So from when the time that Fajr enters to the time of Maghrib. Not sunrise and sunset. We're talking about before sunrise. So this is Subh Sadiq, which is the time when Fajr enters. Right? So let's say Fajr enters at 6 a.m. or a bit before that now. Let's say it enters at 5:30. So from 5:30 till Maghrib is that what? Like let's say 6 p.m. Right? So from like 5:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. you take that time and you make it into half. Let's assume it's 6 a.m. 6 a.m. Fajr time comes in. Let's say 6 p.m. Fajr time. Sorry, Maghrib begins. Right? So you have these 12 hours. Let's assume for hypothetically. Right? So you have 12 hours. And so 6 hours after 6 a.m. would be 12 p.m. He says that essentially up till 12 p.m. that's the most correct opinion. This is the most correct opinion, that you have up till midday. You calculate from beginning of Fajr till beginning of Maghrib. And you divide that. Whatever is midday there, that's the time you have all that time to make intention for the fast of Ramadan. This is very important because intention is fard. You must make intention of which fast you're making. Generally, we have an automatic niyyah. So we're going to talk about what it means to make niyyah, right? But generally, we already have intention, right? We know that it's Ramadan, we're going to fast. So it's automatic. And for intentions, you don't need to verbalize. Many people, they have this misconception that you must verbalize your intentions. You must say, I make intention of the fast of Ramadan. No. All you need to do is have it in your mind that I am fasting for the blessed month of Ramadan. The fard fast of the blessed month of Ramadan. Is that clear so far? Make sense? Again, feel free to ask any questions anytime. So one opinion is that you have until Zawal. The more correct opinion is you have until midday. And I explained what midday is. Yes? All right. That's the first type of wajib fast. He says the second type of wajib fasts or fard fast is that fast which a person makes it necessary on themselves. Right? So what happens is Ramadan. Or sorry, that which is specified, or that which is an obligation on their responsibility or on their own selves. So for example, like Ramadan. For example, someone misses one of the fasts of Ramadan and they need to make that up. That's on their responsibility. They must make it up at some time. Right? One nadhr al-mutlaq, and also just a general promise. I swear that I will fast one day, for example. If someone says that, then they must fast in any specific day. Wal kafarat, and different types of kafara. فَلَا يَجُوزُ صَوْمُهُ إِلَّا بِنِيَّةٍ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Right? So in this case, in any, for example, more specific to us, Qada Ramadan. If you're making Qada of Ramadan, this is obviously outside of Ramadan, you must make intention at night. You don't have that concession to midday. Does that make sense? You don't have concession till midday. وَكَذَلِكَ صَوْمُ الظِّهَارِ. Okay. وَالنَّفْلُ كُلُّهُ يَجُوزُ بِنِيَّةٍ قَبْلَ الزَّوَالِ. Now, going back to intentions, if you have any nafl fast, for example, some of you, mashallah, fast Mondays and Thursdays. Those fasts, you can make it also all the way until midday. Let's say, for example, you woke up, it's, let's say 8 a.m. You woke up and you're like, today, I'm feeling energetic. I have a lot of energy. I'm not feeling hungry today. I want to fast today. Nafl fast. You can do that even if it's after Fajr. So long as obviously you didn't eat anything, you didn't drink anything. So long as you didn't eat or drink anything, you can fast you can begin your fast or the intention of fasting all the way till midday. And the midday description we already discussed. Any questions so far? Makes sense. Okay. Now, وَيَنْبَغِي لِلنَّاسِ أَنْ يَلْتَمِسُوا الْهِلَالَ فِي الْيَوْمِ التَّاسِعِ وَالْعَشْرِينِ مِنْ شَعْبَانَ فَإِنْ رَآهُ صَامُوا. He says that it's necessary for people to go and search for the moon of Ramadan. It's necessary to go search for the moon of Ramadan on the 29th night of Sha'ban. 29th night of Sha'ban, you must go and search for the moon. And if people see it, they must fast. Now to explain, what does it mean by it's necessary? Necessary meaning it's wajib al-kifaya, meaning it's necessary for some people to do it. If some people do it, then the rest of the people, they don't have to worry about it. Like for example, most people here, most of you don't go to check the moon, right? Let's be honest, right? Although it's a forgotten sunnah. People should go and search for the moon in the beginning of the new months. You know? And so there's a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Sumu li ru'yati wa aftiru li ru'yati. He says that fast based on the sighting of the moon and break your fast also on the sighting of the moon. So there's a long discussion where people get into these moon wars, right? We go into moon wars and people have all these conversations and so on. This is where it comes from, this hadith, that you fast based on the sighting of the moon. So you start looking for it on the 29th night. If you see it on the 29th night, what do? You fast the next day. Ramadan has begun. Sha'ban was 29 days and now Ramadan begins, right? So the months of Islam are either 29 or 30 based on the different months. وَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْهِمْ أَكْمَلُوا عِدَّةَ شَعْبَانَ 30 يَوْمًا ثُمَّ صَامُوا. And if it's cloudy, meaning if there's some obstruction, then there will be full 30 days of Sha'ban and then Ramadan will begin after 30 days. وَمَنْ رَآهِ هِلَالَ رَمَضَانَ وَحْدَهُ صَامَ وَإِنْ لَمْ يَقْبَلِ الْإِمَامُ شَهَادَتَهُ. And whoever, let's say someone, they see, let's say you're traveling, for example, right? You're traveling 29 days of Sha'ban passed, and now you're waiting for Ramadan to start. You're alone. Again, nowadays it doesn't really happen. But at that time, let's say you didn't have cell phone, you didn't have anything else. So you're alone. And if you see the moon, you alone, you will start your fast. You'll start Ramadan. Even if the Imam does not accept. Imam meaning the Imam of the locality, the Imam does not accept your witness. Let's say you saw the moon, but you didn't take a picture, your testimony was not accepted for the moon. And now we're going to talk about what does it mean to accept the testimony, right? We're going to talk about it right now. And so even if you see the moon and no one else sees the moon, you must start your fast. But again, most people don't do that. Most people over here, we don't go searching for the moon. وإذا كان في السماء علة قبل الإمام شهادة الواحد العدل في رؤية الهلال رجلا كان أو امرأة حرا كان أو عبدا. Now he goes into some specifics of sighting the moon. He says that if there's an obstruction of the sky in the sky, right? If there's an obstruction in the sky, then the Imam will accept the witness or the testimony of even one person. If one person sees the moon when it's obstructed, then we'll accept it. We'll say, yes, Ramadan has started. Whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whether it's a free person, or whether it's a slave. Again, at that time, there were slaves. فإن لم يكن في السماء علة لم تقبل الشهادة حتى يراه جمع كثير يقع العلم بخبرهم. He says that if the sky is absolutely clear, then there must be multiple people who see the moon, and then we'll accept it. Why? Because if the sky is clear, everyone should see it. Why isn't it that more people aren't seeing it? Understand this, so that when people tell you, oh yeah, the moon was sighted in so and so place, right, by one person, right? I mean, if the sky was clear, why didn't more people see it? That's a natural question. And so he's saying that if the sky is clear, then multiple people must see it. Meaning multiple, meaning 2, 3, 4, 5, anything more than 2. Then he goes on, he explains what time does what time does fast begin. وقت الصوم من طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. He says that the time of Fajr begins from Subh Sadiq, which is the true dawn, until the setting of the sun. Now, there's many people, unfortunately, I've seen this in masajid also. I've seen this in masajid where people, they go and they continue eating even while the adhan of Fajr is going on. They say that we're waiting until the Fajr adhan ends, and then that's the time of the ending of the suhoor time. That's completely wrong. I've seen people in masajid doing this, right? Even some people in our masjid, they had this misconception as well. So the reality is that as soon as the time of Fajr enters, that's the time you must stop eating. That's the time you must stop eating. Now, what you'll see in many communities, there are two different timetables. There are two different timetables as to when Fajr begins, right? You'll find in many masajid, you'll find that the time of Fajr begins 15 minutes later. And some masajid you'll find, for example, our masjid, you find it starting about 15, 20 minutes earlier, right? What's more correct, right? So according to the vast majority of scholars, the time which is earlier is more correct. Time which is earlier is more correct. And so our calendar, our Zakaria Islamic Academy calendar, we follow the earlier time. You'll find other masajid, other places, they allow for 15, 20 minutes more. That's according to very few scholars. Very few scholars approve of that. But what happens? It's the easier one, right? So what happens? People are like, oh, it's easier, so let's just take the easier option. Whereas according to the vast majority of scholars, if you eat after the first time, your fast is not valid. It's a very important thing to understand, right? According to the vast majority of scholars, they say that, I'll explain, answer the question, but vast majority of scholars, they say that the time starts, the earlier time, and there are other scholars who say that it starts later time, but the earlier time is the more correct time. Now the question is, right, there are many different apps that describe which time the Fajr time comes in, right? So now what you should do is, for example, you have Muslim Pro, you have Adhan app, and so on. You have many different types, right? If you go on the calculation method, right? You guys can't see it here, right? But I'll try to show it on, let me see if it comes up. Let me see if it comes up on the screen. Slowly. Anyways, well, it's not coming. But anyways, so if you go on calculation, go on your app, right? Most of us, we use apps, right? By the way, Zakaria Islam Academy has an app. You download the Zakaria Islam Academy app, you'll be perfectly fine. You'll be safe. You don't have to worry about anything else, right? It's free, by the way, right? Of course. So, but if you go on any other app, right, you'll find there are calculation methods. When you go on the calculation methods, there are different times, and they will explain the different angles, right? And this is a long story, but essentially there's 18 degrees and 15 degrees in regards to the curvature of the rising of the sun and so on. All you need to do is go on the settings and change it to Fajr 18 degrees and Isha 18 degrees. That's what you should be doing. Okay? So Fajr 18 degrees and Isha 18 degrees. One second. Okay, so if you go on 18 degrees, then that will be the most safest opinion. So according to Fajr, the 18 degrees, that's when the majority of scholars, they say that the time of Fajr enters. And so therefore you should begin your fast from the 18-degree period. And if you go there, I don't know why they wrote University of Karachi, that doesn't really matter. What really matters is the 18 degrees. That's what's important, right? 18 degrees of Fajr, you see that? And then also next one, it says Isha 18 degrees. We'll come to that another time, but Fajr 18 degrees, that's what's necessary for you to follow, and make sure that you begin your fast from that timing. Again, as I said, the easiest is to do what? Follow Zakaria, follow whatever timing that we have put, and that is the most correct opinion. Okay? And we'll do one more line and we'll stop. Okay, and then, okay, so that's the time that Fajr begins, and obviously Fajr ends. Sorry, the fast, that's the time that fast begins, and the fast ends when? When the sun sets, when the sun is setting, right? Now, I've believe me when I tell you, I've had masajid call me and tell me that we for the entire month of Ramadan, we did sunset 2 minutes earlier for weeks of Ramadan. So what do we tell the community? Right? For weeks of Ramadan, we broke the fast earlier. So for 2, 3 minutes, the entire community's fasts were broken earlier. And so I told them it's very simple. I mean, it's difficult. You have to go and tell the entire community, sorry, you messed up. You broke your fast 3 minutes earlier. That's before sunset. If you are not, and this is a community in Virginia, by the way. A couple years ago, they called me. They said, for most of Ramadan, we broke our fast 3 minutes earlier. For most of Ramadan, we broke our fast 3 minutes earlier. What do we do now? What do we tell the community? I said, go tell them. It's your responsibility. You made your calendar and your calendar was wrong. Now you have to tell them that we told you guys what was wrong. Right? So be very careful. And alhamdulillah, again, our Zakir Islam Academy, we make sure that this is done properly. And so therefore, again, our one, you may find it's 1 or 2 minutes later. That's just out of precaution. It's simply out of precaution, right? To follow our one is the best, and it's the most safest. Now you're fasting for 12, 14, 16 hours. Does 2 minutes make a difference? No, you'd rather be, safe for those 2 minutes and start your fast 2 minutes early and break your fast 2 minutes later, right? So just follow the timing that we have on our apps and our websites. And lastly, وَالصَّوْمُ هُوَ الْإِمْسَاكُ عَنِ الْأَكْلِ وَالشُّرْبِ وَالْجِمَاعِ نَهَارًا مَعَ النِّيَّةِ, right? And by the way, why did I say a community in Virginia? I'm saying this because maybe you may not believe me. You may think that, yeah, it's some random community in Africa or something. I'm talking about in Virginia, people, this happens, right? Unfortunately. So now he's explaining, and this will stop here, inshallah. He explains the definition of fasting. He says, fasting, this is to refrain from consuming food, consuming any type of drinks, and having relations with one's spouse during the day while you're conscious and you remember, right? So to speak about this, right? Now, let's say someone, this is going to be next week's conversation, but essentially, if someone eats unintentionally, they didn't know or they didn't remember that they were fasting. Someone is eating during the day, just randomly a bottle of water was there and they drank that water without even thinking that it was Ramadan. Then later they realized, oh, it's Ramadan, I was fasting, I remember one time I have a bad habit of constantly chewing gum in the car, right? So one day it was Ramadan, this was in the pandemic, right? So like you're alone. And so I went out during the day, and as usual, I jump in my car and I take a gum out. I was very close to eating that gum. And then something clicked, alhamdulillah, and I didn't chew on the gum. But I mean, this happens, right? It happens to many of us that, out of habit, we just grab some food, we just grab some drink. So long as you do it not remembering that you're fasting, your fast is still valid. So long as you don't remember or you didn't think you're fasting, your fast is still valid, and you can continue with that. So you can, let's say someone ate food unintentionally or someone drank unintentionally, then that fast is still valid. They don't have to give any money, they don't have to do anything else. That fast is completely valid and they can continue with that. There's a lot of, I'll mention one important masala related to this about vomiting, right? Some people, what happens is they vomit during Ramadan, during the fasting time, and they think that they broke their fast. Whereas vomiting in Ramadan does not break your fast. Understand? Vomiting while fasting, it does not break your fast. If you vomit intentionally, then yes. But we're talking about the normal situation where someone just, they vomit and it comes out. In that case, it does not break the fast. There is some detail where if you vomit a lot, then you swallow it again, then that does break the fast. But most people, they don't do that. Most people, they vomit and it comes out. So just understand that the general rule is, if you vomit, it does not break your fast. Okay? So far, that's clear. Inshallah, we will stop here. Any questions about what we discussed? We will speak again. We'll discuss further, inshallah. And I know today was just a bit boring, maybe. It was a bit slower. But inshallah, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we'll have more appropriate masail. And I think all of this was important. I think all of this is important, and we should understand it. We should learn this so that, we don't make these types of mistakes that were made by many other people. As I said, many other communities, many other places, they make these types of mistakes. inshallah, we hope to learn and we hope to not make these types of mistakes. Any questions? Anyone has any questions? Yes.
You're saying positive sleep, we can get up and take a thought. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Can we eat like a small date or we can't eat anything and just go only the Nia?
Yes. Yes. So you cannot eat anything, right? Yes, you can make intention of fasting up till midday, right? But you cannot eat anything during that period, obviously. If you eat anything from Fajr time till then obviously you cannot fast that day. Yes, you can make intention that time, but it'll be considering from the beginning, from the morning, from the Fajr time until night. You cannot eat anything after Fajr from that period. Yes. If it's necessary to fast from the time that your parents tell you to fast. Any other questions? Yes.
For the angles of the budget, could I use 18.5? So the 18.5 or 18?
You can follow 18. 18 is fine. 18 is fine.
What is an angle?
It's a long discussion. I can explain it to you, but it'll be very long. I can send you a link. And if you are interested in learning more about the angles of and curvature and so on, I'll explain that, or I'll send you a link, inshallah. Yes, all of the prayer times are in 18 degrees or just Fajr and Maghrib? Fajr, only Fajr actually. Only Fajr, it's a requirement, right? In Isha, it's more lenient. Isha, when it says 18 degrees Isha, that's more lenient. You can choose 15 or 18. The scholars, they have given concession for both. But for Fajr, because that has to do with the fast of Ramadan, it becomes more strict. So you should adopt 18 degrees for Fajr and just keep it at that, 18 degrees for Fajr. Okay, any other questions?
Breaking the fast, what if I see on the app, like sunset is on in time and the curry is up 2 minutes. So can I still break it?
Depends which app you follow, right? You'd have to follow, I mean, no, don't follow iPhone sunset, right? Don't follow, like, when you Google sunset of this day, generally that'll be 2-3 minutes early. You go on Google, for example, right now, and you Google sunset today at Aldi, right? It'll show 2-3 minutes before, because what they do is they start considering sunset when the sun starts setting. You know what I mean? So when the sun is setting below horizon, sun is still up, but it's still it's setting. That's when they consider sunset. And so we say no, sunset timing is here when the sun is below the horizon. They say no, sunset is when it's above the horizon. So that's a big thing. What are degrees? I talked about it during the lecture, during the class. If you have any other questions, feel free to text me, inshallah, and I'll respond to your questions, inshallah. There. Jazakumullah khairah. Allah Ta'ala give us a to understand.